Welcome to the Turnagain Arm Mycological Society Table Talk. Normally we spend days scouring the woods for as many species as possible that we can label and display at the Girdwood and Cordova Fungus fairs. We normally showcase over 100 species. This is another great year for mushrooms, just not a great year for gathering people. So the members of the Turnagain Arm Mycological Society did a brief foray in Girdwood, and here we present some of our finds. Our tables are normally organized taxonomically, with the non-gilled mushrooms separated from the gilled mushrooms. Here we'll start with a non-gilled mushroom, the boletes. This striking mushroom really stands out and is one of my favorite. It has bright red pores and stem that turns a dark blue after handling. And when you cut it, the flesh is yellow, but very quickly turns blue when exposed to air. For a long time, this mushroom was called BOLETUS luridiformis, but now we know that name refers to a European species, and this is different. It's also now placed in its own genus. It is currently awaiting its very own species name and is an excellent example of how understudied mushrooms are. This is the king bolete. It's considered a choice edible around the world. Lucky for us, this species can be very common in Alaska, from southeast to the interior, if conditions are favorable. The flesh remains white after cutting when young. The pores are white, turning yellow with age. This mushroom is best picked when young, as it is quite popular with slugs, bugs, squirrels, and other humans. And this is a LECCINUM that Jeff Samuels picked it, I'm guessing, in a bog with dwarf birch. So LECCINUM is a common genus. They're also called the SCABER stalk. So if you look at the stem, they have black or brown scabers along the stem. They come in a variety of colors and sizes. There's a lot of diversity in Alaska, not a lot of diversity in the Girdwood Valley because they associate with birch and aspen and other deciduous species of which we don't have much of in Girdwood. This mushroom is similar to the LECCINUM, but it's in a different genus. It's frequently found on the Kenai in the Anchorage area and sometimes found in Girdwood. This is HEMILECCINUM SUBGLABIPRES. It's also known as the lemon bolete or the butter bolete or the yellow LECCINUM. It goes by a variety of names, but it's considered a good edible. It has yellow pores and flesh that does not stain.
And another way to identify this mushroom is there's a very distinct lemon-like fruit roll-up layer between the sponge and the cap.
Another common bolete found in the Girdwood area is the ADMIRABLE bolete. You frequently see it associated with hemlock. It has yellow pores, wine-colored cap and stem. The cap texture is like a cat tongue. And when you cut it, the flesh is pale yellow. It does not stain.
This is another lemony flavored bolete. A lot of people like this lemon bolete versus the other lemon bolete that I call. And it's very good, especially small. When it gets really large, it deteriorates. And now we're going to talk about some tooth mushrooms. And this is a very large hawkwing. And as you look on the inside, Teresa, you can show them. It looks like little wings on the front. Yeah. So they call it a hawkwing. So it looks like it's a wing, like it would fly away like a bird. And show the underneath side. It has tooth or teeth instead of a gill or a sponge. So that's how you'd identify this mushroom. And it's an edible mushroom, but it's more bitter. Not everyone likes this mushroom. This is a choice mushroom for most people, and they get really large, and it has teeth underneath too, and it never has a perfect cap. It always has some irregularity of the shape of the top. When you're out looking in the woods, it's a good way to identify it. And they're very watery mushrooms, so when you cook with them, you just chop them up, put them in the pan with no butter, and then let all the water come out, and then you can add butter and oil cooking with this mushroom. Okay, we're going to look at a couple of chanterelles. This is our false chanterelle. It's a very bright colored chanterelle, has gills. It does not have ribs or folds like the yellowfeet chanterelle. This is a non-edible mushroom, grows on wood. And a lot of people will make a mistake from this chanterelle to the yellowfeet chanterelle. And this mushroom is an excellent mushroom for making soup. And if you look up underneath of it, you can see they're not really a gill, they're more of a fold or ridges, that's the word, thank you. But yeah, this mushroom is an awesome mushroom, just with some onion, a little bit of vegetable broth, and some creme fraiche, and it is one of your best favorite mushroom soups. And those are found in a lot of boggy areas.
All right, this is the pine spike mushroom, or CHROOGOMPHUS tomentosus. It's called pine spike, but curiously we don't have any pine here. This is one of those weird outliers that doesn't associate with pine, it associates with spruce. The rest of the species in this genus are strictly with pine, so this is the only species we have. It can be really abundant. Last summer when nothing else was out, this was everywhere. It is an edible mushroom. The flesh turns dark purple when you cook it. The red belted polypore, it's a really common conch. On the underside, it's got pores like a bolete would, but it grows on wood and it's very hard like wood. Truly gilled mushrooms. And once you figure out that a mushroom has gills, the next thing you'll want to know is what color are the spores. The spores are born on the surface of the gills, and what's in Teresa's hand, if you're lucky, is sometimes when a mushroom is growing on top of another one, they'll deposit their spores on the cap of the smaller one, so you'll be able to see the color of the spores. And in this case, the spores are white. We have a Leccaria. This is a really common mushroom in south central Alaska. It's also known as the deceiver because it's highly variable. But the thing that distinguishes the Leccaria is they all have that similar color, kind of a different pink. And the stem is really cord-like. And this one, since it's so common, people want to know, is it edible? The caps are, but the stem is too tough. These little decomposers are just starting to come out. And Jeff here got a really nice collection of
Mycena strobilinoidea.
bright orange, very lively mushroom on the green forest floor. The next group of gilled mushrooms we're going to talk about are the russula. They're white spored. They're brightly colored. They come in a variety of colors. Teresa's showing the red, but they come in green. There's yellows. There's beige. There's purples. They all have, they're called brittle gills. They all have brittle gills and a chalk-like stem that is really fragile. And they're extremely abundant. They're very diverse. And they're pretty challenging to identify down to species. Also very common right now is these white blobs all over the forest floor. And they are parasitized russula. They have another fungus growing on them. Related to russulas are the group Lactarius, or milky caps. Again, a wide variety of colors. They're very similar in appearance to russulas. They've got brittle gills and brittle stems, but when you cut the cap or break it with your finger, you're going to see this milky white substance come out, or latex. And that's what distinguishes the milky caps from the russulas. We've got a lot of different species in this group. Common name is orange delicious. And I don't know too many people that find it delicious. Probably because this is a species complex where the European species are really tasty, but the species that we have here probably yet to be named, maybe aren't the tastiest. Notable gilled edible that we have on the table is these angel wings here. They look like oysters because they're related. They have a beautiful pearly white cap, white gills. They grow on wood, and they're frequently picked and eaten in South Central Alaska. Some guidebooks are now considering this mushroom edible with caution because there have been poisonings attributed to this species in Japan. Brown spored mushroom, this is a really important group. Good to know because it contains a lot of species that are really common in South Central Alaska, and that's the group Cortinarius. And they're generally pretty easy to pick out. Not all of them are as bright and as purple and showy as this one, but they'll have rust brown spores, and you don't need to do a spore print to find that out. The other main characteristic of the species is that it has a cobwebby veil, and in the specimen that's been cut in half, it's really easy to see that cobwebby veil still attached. And when it matures, the spores will drop and get hung up in that cobweb, and there will be, on a mature specimen, that brown spore remnants on that cobweb of the stem. Dermosibi, it looks like a little brown mushroom from the top, but when you flip it around on the underside, they have brightly colored gills on the underside, and that is of interest to Teresa and Dyers.
So there's orange and yellow and red in this area, and you can get if you can get those same colors. Depending, if you mix them up, you'll get more of a pinkish orangish color. If they're individual, if you have reds, you can get a red color or a light, maybe closer to a pink color. They're highly prized by dyers.
Sotis, Hyphiloma myosotis. And I've been looking at these kind of smaller mushrooms growing in the bog behind our house, and curious as to what they will turn out to be when I put them up on iNaturalist. And this one was identified by somebody in Oregon when I posted it. And it is one of only 6 identified samples taken on iNaturalist in the world right now. So it's our meadow here. Our meadows here in Girdwood have them. They grow in Sitka apparently, and they grow in Washington and Oregon, and then there's another ID in Spain. I'm sure they exist out there in many more places, but they're so small and nondescript that people don't pay much attention to them.
L.B.M.
So it's kind of fun. It's just, yeah, a little brown mushroom that people don't pay much attention to, but
Thanks for joining us, and thanks to these TAMS members for their collections and expertise. If you'd like to know more about TAMS, check us out at fungusfair.com.